So the cash money of the DNC. The cash money of the DNC. What did it cost to have the DNC here in Chicago? How much did this hurt the American people? Now, if you've been watching some of Jimmy Dore's live stream, I remember I watched one of his live streams on Wednesday. Jimmy was walking around the United Center, and I heard him talking to his mic. Look at this whole thing. How much money did they waste on this whole joke? Everything about it. That's not his exact quote, but he just basically was saying, like, look, this is all a waste of time, waste of money, you know. And I found that hilarious. But I also want to give a huge shout out to Case Study QB, because what is the cost of the DNC? Shout out to Case Study QB. If you're not following him on X, I call it Phoenix, formerly known as Twitter. Here's the overall cost, folks. Hang on. Try not to cry.
It could be a week or two before we know that full cost. But the early estimates show that it could be as much as $76 million.
$76 million of a circle jerk fest. That's all it was. It was one big old circle jerk. It was all one big old human centipede.
Figure that ballooned in part because of concern about protests between the protesters and, of course, police. 4 days into the Democratic National Convention, and the presence of Chicago police is hard to miss. Scheduled days off were canceled weeks ago, and officers have been working 12-hour shifts. And while the protests have largely been peaceful, clashes that erupted Tuesday night between protesters and Chicago police led to 59 arrests and criticism against both demonstrators and police. Emails obtained by NBC5 Investigates show Chicago was asking for as much as $76 million in federal funding, with plans to spend upwards of $25 million in police overtime and another $25 million on equipment, including a new helicopter, body cameras.
Yes, seeing all those helicopters out there, the police convoy out there, everything else. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. You know, I'm just going to say this right here. My first day on Monday, I literally had to walk home, all right? And it was a long walk home. CPD closing down bridges and roadways. You know, it wasn't a lot of fun, folks. It was a lot of pain. It was a lot of suffering. It really hurt a lot. So, you know, thank you, Chicago, for those 4 days of hell. What was funny, though, and maybe I shouldn't be laughing at it, it's just the amount of rage that I saw in people in their cars screaming, which is why, case note, you know, the next time there will be a DNC convention, be like old Kit Kat. Park far away or either that, use public transportation. But if you use public transportation, be ready to walk home. Perhaps I'll save that for a patron story, maybe over the weekend. There might be a patron show on Sunday. So I'll explain to you Kit Cabello's fantastic adventures at the DNC.
And other devices, some of which we noticed installed around the United Center.
It raises questions about how are these decisions being made, you know, and do community members have really any input into like how we want to see our city in the future? So that's like a big concern for us.
Freddie Martinez with the Lucy Parsons Lab has monitored Chicago police equipment and surveillance for years. He said that amount of spending leaves him concerned about what tools police acquired and how they'll use them now and in the future.
That's right. That's another thing. Oh my God, they got all those fantastic new toys. 1984, anyone? Fahrenheit 451, Brave New World. Say it with me, all the people in back, you lovely, beautiful people. What could possibly go wrong? A lot could go wrong.
I asked Superintendent Larry Snelling about the spending this morning.
Is that an accurate total? And what would you say to people who would criticize that level of spending for police at the DNC?
Well, first off, you know, I don't handle the finances, so I'm going to leave that part of it alone. But what I will tell you is this. When it's necessary to protect the city, you have to make the investment.
Again, the city's Office of Budget Management would not provide a specific breakdown on where that federal funding has gone. I did ask the mayor's office if these figures could go up. The spokesman told me today it's too early to say. We could know more in about a week or so when those totals are calculated. Stefan and Allison. And it could be.
Say it with me, folks. What could possibly go wrong? So I want to pull up this article here. We delivered. Mayor Brandon Johnson touts DNC success ahead of convention's final night. All right. All right. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Here's our fantastic mayor. I really hope they gather enough petition signatures for that recall. Anyways, sorry. Near West Side, Brandon Johnson is promising to use this week's Democratic National Convention to leverage further investment in Chicago while touting the DNC as safe, energetic, and vibrant. Oh, yes, the police present, the lockdowns, everything else, the arrest, fantastic, peaceful. During a brief interview with Block Club on Thursday, Johnson said he hopes the DNC will lead to more federal dollars to support the Chicago Transit Authority, build affordable housing, and support neighborhood public schools. The mayor also praised the federal support the police department received before the convention to buy 3 new helicopters this year. We got helicopters, okay, but what about our schools? My endeavor is to use this convention as an opportunity to benefit the people of Chicago. Listen, for those of you who are not from Chicago, you could participate. Let's have democracy in the chat. Do you think the federal government's going to give more money to Chicago to help out its citizens and rebuild our schools and infrastructure? Type 1 for yes, Kit. Be proud of your mayor. The DNC worked flawlessly. Shame on you, you awful, awful man. Type 2, dude. I'm not from Chicago, and I know that ain't going to happen. You're from Chicago, and you live there. You know that ain't going to happen. It's okay, kid. It's okay. You can yell into the void later. And I probably will. Only 15 months into his first term in office, Johnson finds himself in the national spotlight of the convention that brought tens of thousands of delegates, protesters, and members of the media and other visitors to Chicago this week. In the months leading to the DNC, there were questions over how prepared Chicago police were to secure the convention, if a surge of buses carrying asylum seekers would materialize, and how a rookie mayor elected on a progressive platform sympathetic to protesters would handle it all. Well, yeah, he kind of threw that progressive policy out the window, okay? So far, protests during the convention remained mostly peaceful. About 70 protesters were arrested on Monday and Tuesday, and none on Wednesday. Businesses near the United Center McCormick Place, meanwhile, reported mixed results when it comes to a convention boost, with some seeing a big spike in customers, while others have had declines. Well, gee, when you close off traffic and everything else, you know, there will be a decline in business. Some will succeed, others will fail miserably. It wasn't a big boon that people thought would happen. Speaking around 1 p.m. Thursday, Johnson wouldn't yet officially declare the convention a success, but said the city has delivered on what it set out to do. I promise a safe, energetic, vibrant convention, and that's exactly what we delivered. The world is going to see a closer view of the greatest freaking city in the world. Well, gee, Mayor Brandon Johnson, there's still lead in Chicago's drinking water. The city is still hyper-segregated. We have political corruption. We have police corruption. We have crumbling infrastructure. Our schools are still shut down. And we have so many other problems. But, okay. You know, I love my city too. But we got some problems here, okay? I'm so very proud of how Chicagoans have showed up in this moment. And it's a real testament to who we are as a people. Well, then you shouldn't have been walking the streets on Monday as I'm hearing people screaming in their cars. Hell, as I was driving Daniel home on Thursday, we were walking to my car and there's this lady being directed away from traffic. She's like, I've been in traffic for 3 hours. I just want to go home. Anyways. Mayor backs police investigates Gaza stance. Securing the convention after a large-scale pro-Palestinian protest downtown encampments on college campuses and a Democratic Party still supporting Israel's war effort in Gaza has been the first national public safety test for Johnson and his police superintendent. There have been some clashes between police and pro-Palestinian protesters who will march all 4 days of the convention. 13 protesters were arrested Monday after a small crowd breached a security wall and poured into the buffer zone between fences near the United Center. Super Larry Snelling directed officers from the scene, called in additional police who cleared the nearby park 578 as hostilities rose with agitators who had peeled off from a peaceful protest that drew thousands. On Tuesday, an unpermitted group hosting a rally to shut down the DNC for Gaza clashed with rows of riot cops outside the Israeli consulate as the city invoked a controversial mass arrest policy to disperse the crowd. Police arrested processed, and released 59 people, including 3 journalists, largely charged with misdemeanors or given citations. So, folks, how is this going to impact our city? There's so much. There's a migrant crisis here and so much more. But what can we take away from the cost? The overall cost is that the Democrats in this city, it could be argued, had a successful convention. There wasn't a riot like it was in 1968. It wasn't a complete snore fest like it was in 1994. This one was low energy. You know, I was talking with my colleague Daniel and a few other people about how, in comparison to the DNC convention in 2016 to the DNC convention here in 2024, there was hope, there was enthusiasm, there was energy, there was spark, there was life. There was nothing here. Low energy. Just vote blue no matter who. But now the cost. With all these new toys, what could go wrong? Surveillance equipment, new helicopters, everything else. I mean, you know, okay, the CPD's got some brand new toys to play with at the price of the federal government that gave it to them. So, all right. Does this mean further lockdowns, more surveillance? Well, the answer is yes. It's always happening. Hell, you're being spied on your smartphone or when you go online on the internet. But the cost, what is the cost? Well, Chicagoans learn firsthand that this city will do whatever it can to make sure that everything is going to work fine. And if you step out of line, you're going to get arrested. They will lock areas down. As for businesses, I'm pretty sure that they got mixed results. Some probably did better than others, but the vast majority got mixed results. These 4 days here in Chicago was a snore fest. It was a waste of money. It was a waste of time. I was expecting a little bit more. I'm pretty sure the CPD and the mayor was expecting more. The overall cost was, I guess, to a mindset or the idea that somehow you could change the Democratic Party. You can't. They just built walls and fences. They're really good at it, just like Trump. Well done, Mayor Brandon Johnson. You had a successful convention. So how are you going to use this as your stepping stone for your next political future? Chicago politics, folks. You got to live in the city to understand it. And when you do, you'll be raging at the machine every day, all the time. That's why Hardlands Media is here. So much money wasted, so little effort, and nothing changed.